Parking meters in the city continues to be an issue that is dividing residents and one which seems to unite along a certain line. Opposition to its implementation continues by many, while the mayor and city council and its supporters are adamant that the green machines are here to stay. There have been some developments, and according to reports in the media, His Excellency President David Granger has called for a reduction in the rates. Does this change the game? Why has this project attracted so much opposition, even from members of the council? What actually is being opposed? What could be the way forward? I am Neaz Subhan, and this is The Factor. To help answer my questions are to my immediate left, this will be Mr. Don Singh from the Movement Against Parking Meters. Next to Don is the former Deputy Mayor of the Georgetown Mayor and City Council, Mr. Sherod Duncan. Next to Mr. Duncan will be Attorney at Law Pauline. And to my far left, Mr. Bishram, Kuppen, Councillor for the PPP on the MNCC. Lady, gentlemen, welcome. First of all, let me start with you, Don.
Sure.
What is it exactly that the Movement Against Parking Meters, what exactly is this movement opposing?
We're opposing, first of all, the draconian bylaws that were introduced to enforce these parking meters. We are questioning everything because there's no procurement process followed in the evolvement of these parking meters. We're saying stop. Let's have a look at everything. We are not opposed to the city earning. No, not at all. We know the city has to make money. I mean,
are you opposed to the city earning through parking meters?
No, not at all. But if it's done in a free and transparent way with a public tender, sure, the city has to earn. We understand that. That is not a problem.
Why, or what is it about the contract that probably you would have seen or not seen that is causing you and your group to oppose?
Well, very simply put, we have not seen the contract, but the Ministry of Finance's review of the contract is so damning. I mean, they speak to the fact that Smart City Solutions can change fees arbitrarily without recourse to anyone. You know, so whilst we're on the topic of the president asking for reduction in rates, they can drop it to $10 tomorrow and in 2 days raise it to $10,000. There are no caps on anything for this company.
Are you prepared to accept a reduction in rates?
No, we're not at this time.
Or let me bring in Sherwood here as a former deputy mayor, still a councillor. Clearly, from what I understand, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm told that this contract is there, but it cannot be photographed, it cannot be emailed. You have to go physically into the main city council, some room that they have, and if you want to peruse this contract, you're allowed to take some notes. Is that true?
This document is more sacred than the Dead Sea Scroll. You know, for all intents and purposes, you can practically take enough pages to write back the whole contract, but just don't try to take a picture of it or anything like that. It's top secret document. And for the record, I'm still the deputy mayor up until the end of March.
So okay, my apologies.
There's that. But continuing from what Don says, not only are the fines and so on odious, but the parking meter company, through the bylaws, takes no responsibility, not as a city, for any damage to your vehicle while you're impounding it or anything like that. So there are some major issues with the bylaws. There are some major issues with the substantive contract and the procedures that even brought the contract to the council. The council was never asked to debate on this contract. If that happened, show us the minutes. The council was never asked to say whether they even want parking meters. If that was done, bring the minutes. The minutes, according to Chapter 2801, which governs the city council, says that the minutes of our meeting, they are the legal documents concerning any issue spoken about at the council level. And so if this document, if this contract was debated and approved by the council, bring those minutes and let us see them. So even the passage of the contract, we have started very early back in May, June of last year to speak out on, and that led us to where we are currently.
If I'm hearing you right, there was no transparency, basically, that's what you're trying to say.
No.
Let me skip across and go to the PPP councillor here, Mr. Kuppen. We know Sherwood, we have seen him in the media opposing all of this. In terms of the council, was it only Sherwood and probably the PPP who alone opposed this?
No, there were other councillors who voiced opinion, and Councillor Duncan was in the forefront in the public, but I initially was one of the people that started this discussion in the council. And I'd like to be viewed as a councillor and not assigned to a political party,
Okay.
because the interests of the city and the citizens is of concern to me all across the city. I come from constituency 7, but I'm not only representing constituency 7. I believe that all councillors should be looking out for all citizens across the city. So that's a perspective that I come to from this conversation. Initially, when we first heard about this here, when you think about being elected for the interest of the citizen or representing the interest of the citizen, we were handed a contract that was already signed. This is a contract you're bringing. This is a major issue. And you can't simply bring it to a new council and tell them, well, this is the situation here. And, you know, we're going to have a little discussion and hand it a little brochure, a little small brochure, color brochure you can barely read. But there were a few things in there that right away, among a number of councillors, raised alarms.
When you said number of councillors, I'm kind of curious here.
That
because
wasn't
I'm-
a brochure. That was a bookmarker.
Yeah,
Practically, it
yes.
was.
I'm
that
trying
was
to
a brochure.
rewind here to understand in a new dispensation, new fresh elections that we had last year, new council. And am I to believe then that someone just walked in and say, hey, this is a contract already signed, and other than a few people, it was basically accepted? Is that a fair statement?
It could be a fair statement. It was already signed. I think initially,
No, in terms of the reaction of the general
reaction,
council.
I think this is where the political end of it come in. I think the majority in there simply followed what they were being told and didn't quite object. But there were a few people, I would say, who were actually doing what they were supposed to be doing. They objected and they wanted more information. They were asking for more additional information on this contract. I can't say it's a majority. It's probably 4 or 5 people.
Am I to imply, by implication, are you saying then the councils did what they were told? Sherwood, were you told to go a certain way and you didn't?
No, I was never told to go in any direction then. And up until now, my party has never said to me, the AFC, to do X or do Y. I believe part of what happened here too, it was a relatively new council. We had lots of persons who would have never sat on a council prior. And so it was, they were on a learning curve. Remember, we were sworn into office on the 1st of April. We met with Smart City, I believe, on the 3rd of June. This contract would have been mentioned twice in May as part of the announcements of the mayor. And in one meeting, she said that they were signing a contract with, for parking meters as part of the announcements. It was never an argument or a debate or anything like that.
If I may interject, I think she said they were going to sign an amendment, not a contract.
Yes,
an amendment.
an amendment.
Yes.
And then in the following meeting, it was said that the company had begun doing its work. And so May, we met with the company for the very first time, and we began to voice our objections to it. So it was never a case where anybody, I believe personally, was necessarily throwing a party line. Some of it, to me, they were very new, very skeptical of what they should be doing, you know, that kind of stuff. But coming back to what Kuppen said earlier, Chapter 2801 that governs City Hall.
Hold on. Are you saying then that you don't think party line was told where this was concerned?
Initially.
Initially.
Because we were a very young council
So
then.
now you think that has changed?
I don't think I have enough information, and I love to deal with facts.
Okay.
But going back to what Kuppen says, that all of us, according to 2801, every councillor is not only representing his constituency, you're representing all of Georgetown. And so I think it's unfair when we say an AFC councillor or an APNU councillor, because when people come to see me as deputy mayor, I don't ask them which party you're from.
Okay.
God,
I agree
you
with
represent
what you're saying.
all of Georgetown. You represent whether people belong to APNU, AFC, PPP. You have to look after the interests of the city. That's important. And even when the president came to City Hall on the 27th of June last year, he said that you do not represent just political party here. You represent the people. And I take it for one very seriously. And I think my fellow councillor takes it seriously too.
I think it's commendable, but at the end of the day, in our politics in our country, that's a different discussion. Eventually, party lines play a very important role. Let me bring in here Attorney at Law Pauline Chase. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit here in terms of there have been talks of mounting some legal challenge to all of this. Are there grounds for this in any way?
Of course there is.
Tell me about it.
Well, the legal grounds can probably be divided best into two categories. One, the contract, and two, the bylaws. There are different angles that it can be attacked from. The first issue is, as I highlighted, the contract, whether it's legal or not, whether it is a legal document. We have not seen the contract, but from what we have read and what we have been told, there are serious issues concerning the legality of the contract. For instance, one, from what we've just heard, the council has not seen the contract that has been signed. Chapter 2801 states that the council, section 230, gives the council the authority to enter into contracts for the execution of its duties. And it's exactly as it says, the council. So if the council has not seen the contract and has been signed just by the town clerk or the mayor, how can it be taken that the council has entered into this contract?
But could that make the contract illegal?
Of course it can.
Okay. I'm not a legal man.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to clarify for my viewers here, right?
Yes, of course it can. If you did not have the legal capacity to enter into the contract, you cannot bind.
Okay.
Secondly, the issue of tendering. The said Municipal and District Councils Act, Chapter 2801, Section 231, provides that for any contract over and above 250,000 must be tendered. We heard quite an alarming statement from the town clerk last night on I think a TV program or something that was aired on Channel 11, I believe, that there was no tendering and there was no need to tender. But we would respectfully disagree with the town clerk on that because the Act says that you need to tender. And aside and apart from
So
statute,
sourcing doesn't apply in this case?
no, and aside and apart from statute, forget statute. Common sense and good business practice, I would think, dictate that there need to be tendering. No one builds a fence without getting more than one estimate. No one buys any goods without shopping around. So how do we know that we got the best deal if there was no tendering?
And you see, that's part of the challenge that I've had personally as a councillor. The narrative keeps changing because I've heard at one point that they knew that this was the best deal they could have gotten, and that is why they didn't go to tendering.
So the question is how?
Right? Well, I don't know. But just last night, the mayor said that on the television program that they were approached by an individual and they liked what they heard, and so they proceeded. And so this is how things have been going. The very same section 231 says that anything above $250,000 must be tendered. And advertised. And the only way you can go below 250,000 is if there is an emergency. Correct. And of course, this contract is worth, according to them, $2 billion. And it's definitely not an emergency. So,
Don, let me bring you in here. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yes.
Why you think in your civic mind that you think the contract is not being made available?
Well, they must be, after reading the ministry, as it says, we're going by the ministry, this is the government of Guyana. They have issued a review on this contract. I haven't seen
And there's some
personally.
harsh words in that
Harsh
review.
words. I mean, they have at the end of it, in general observation, says this should be rescinded. This has no benefit to the people of Guyana. They should be retendered. Not my words. This is the words of the Ministry of Finance after their review. I mean, they ask for the feasibility studies. They weren't given. The contract doesn't say it. I mean, you can see the socio and economic impact it's having on Georgetown. If this continues for another month, Georgetown is dead. Businesses are losing hundreds of millions of dollars every day because of this.
and the finance document speaks directly to that, the impact that it could have, the possible impact in terms of changing the shopping trends, where businesses are located. All of that, specifically, the document speaks to.
But in terms of transparency, one would expect that the council would want to ensure that it's above the fray and have this out in the public domain. So my question, again, I want to repeat my question. In your mind, why do you think this contract is, to use Sherwood's word, being protected as a
because if
Dead
this
Sea
contract
Scrolls?
becomes public, their game is over. The public will will see the possible corruption. I don't want to get sued for libel, but if this contract, after you read this report, You can only imagine what's in that contract. And if the public sees that contract, game over.
But on the same
No,
note,
They
hold
will
on.
be
But
exposed.
and just for a viewer's perspective, the document you're talking about
Yeah.
is the Ministry of Finance review of the contract.
Yes.
Very good.
You see, when this review came to us, one of the points I made to them is that the people who looked at the contract don't really have the financial knowledge, the capability like the Ministry of Finance. And they should
People in the
follow
council you're talking about?
Yeah, people within the council. And they should really follow the recommendations. And I outlined them back to them where all these various points the Ministry of Finance was making. And even with that, with the Ministry of Finance's recommendations, which I thought they should scrap that contract, the recommendation wasn't there for it to be withdrawn because there were grounds, and to start over, if that was the case. And then with something as large as this, you're binding the people of this city for 20 or 40 years. The original contract was 49 years. With the amendment, they were talking about 20 years with an option to renew, which would not be held back unreasonably. Right? So we're talking about 40 years, still around 40 years. To bind the people here, you have to have public input with something as big as this, and we didn't have that. There was no transparency about this contract. It was not tendered, and so forth. And my position is that this has to be scrapped. It
When
cannot go
did this
forward.
review come to you, this review by the
July,
Finance Ministry?
it was finished on July 1.
And this is 2016 we're talking
July
about.
2,
So,
2016.
and we got it somewhere around mid,
Yeah. And
mid
this only
July.
came about because we had objected in the
The
council.
agitation started, and that is
at
why
point in time.
we got to here. It's because of the agitation we were doing at the council level that government stepped in and ordered a review of the contract, right? And it's through the Ministry of Legal Affairs saying that the figure should be relooked at. They came down from $500 to $200. But one thing I want to point out, two of the things I want to point out, and our lawyer here can tell us a little bit more, that the mayor, when they came back from Mexico, where they went to look at the rollout of parking meters, said something I find very peculiar. The mayor says that she took a deliberate action to withhold the contract from councillors because they didn't want anybody to steal the idea. But we are governed by 2801, and nothing in that legislation says that the mayor or town clerk or any other officer can unilaterally keep information from councillors. And I don't know how can somebody aggregate to themselves that kind of authority. And they're on record in a press conference as stating that they unilaterally withheld the contract. And in their own words, they said when the contract was implemented, it will be made public. But they're making it public is that you can go and read it, make notes, but you can't take any pictures and you can't get a copy.
I'm curious here to try to imagine what a council meeting is like.
It's a one-way street, roughly. Do this, do that, sign here, rubber stamp there.
You see,
Go.
one of
Is
the
that
most
true?
alarming
Is that
things-
true?
It is
Public?
not. It is
Yes,
not
it's
easygoing. Let me put it that way.
It's a public meeting.
It's a public meeting.
It's a public meeting. The press is there. A lot of times I'm surprised that many of the things that occur there, you don't see it in the press, and there are scandalous items that are raised, but they never appear in the press. But going back to the trip to Mexico, the individuals who traveled to Mexico, you had no one there with any technological experience. And given that the state the city is in for decades now, you can make the assumption that they don't have any financial acumen either. You would have expected they would have taken somebody from either the engineering department or somebody from the Ministry of Public Infrastructure with information or that has the knowledge to assess these meters, but yet you had the mayor, you had the finance committee chairman, and the deputy chairman of finance committee, the town clerk, going there as the experts to review the systems, which I found hilarious. For a system that we're talking about $2 billion investment.
Other than the reduction after the review came out, was anything else acted upon based on what the finance
The
ministry would
terms,
have
the years. From
recommended?
fortnight came down to 20 with a possibility of another 20.
Nothing else.
Yeah, but there's a word in there, and I think they deliberately misspelled the word, and they put reversion, but they meant reversion, meaning that the initial fees that they're giving now, or the amendment, there could be a reversion to the original clause.
It's a revision,
To do,
yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Don-
before you go on, you're talking about council meetings. I actually put a stopwatch in this. The Nurse Green was re-elected as mayor in 38 seconds.
We
38
have an
seconds.
efficient council, sir.
Very good. 38 seconds
Complain
to
about
re-elect.
efficiency.
I actually
Certain
put a
things are
stopwatch in this.
predetermined, right?
But
38 seconds.
to be fair, let me say that while I think there's a sort of perception by the public that is warfare and all hell breaks loose in every council meeting, I don't think the public gets to see lots of, as Kuppen says, lots of what we actually agree on in terms of the business of the council moving it forward. The media sometimes run with the sensational, but you know, we agree on a lot of things, and that is how the council functions from day
But this
to
is
day.
one thing you can
No.
one thing. Now, you know, we have followed the protests. You know, you had two protests so far, and one of the things that has been coming out from the other side is that basically, one, this is a set of high-class people who are protesting. So the question was asked: is it that high-class people should not protest? And if they do protest, it means that they have no value in what they're doing. Question is, some people have branded you or your movement, the movement against parking meters, as being anti-development. How would you respond to that? In terms of the council trying to get revenue to develop the city, I've heard that.
I see this as active citizenship. I see this as having a robust democratic process where people can air their views irrespective of which side of life they're on. Poor, middle class, high class, or otherwise. But this specific issue touches on every level. It touches the vendor in the street, it touches the taxi driver, the minibus driver, it touches the person who owns a business because of its very nature. Take, for instance, those vendors on Water Street.
Let's come back to that. In terms of the question, because I've heard this as an accusation, so in addition to being high-class citizens, this is probably an expression, basically, that, trying to prevent the council from getting revenue.
Rubbish. We are not anti-development, not at all. But had they taken the step to have proper consultation with your citizens and involve all, we would have given you ideas, and we could have come up with wonderful ways to make hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, in the last city council budget for 2016-2017, they are projecting to make $120 million as their cut from the parking meters. $120 million, that's $10 million a month. Is there no way, with consultation and buy-in from your citizens, you can make more than $10 million? I think so.
See, one of the biggest problems in the council is they're looking at the business community in an adversarial manner. And a lot of times the pronouncements in there seems to be against the business community. And that was evidenced by the container fees and the new bylaws they want to put in there. I don't think they're viewing seriously the business community that can be a potential strong partner. You know, there's this adversarial thing about them that they're not responsible and so forth. And the town clerk made a statement that the people who are protesting are backwards. He's labeling protesters, citizens of this city, business people, etc., as being backwards. No, they're not backwards. And they're not against development. In fact, one of the biggest issues that I'd raise is about having a forensic audit in that city because it is mired in corruption allegations for decades. And first of all, in my position is that for you to want additional money, you have to account for the monies that you're already collecting.
Absolutely.
For the rates and taxes and so forth.
Let me give the
No,
attorney a
if
chance.
I can, the anti-development argument, I'll tell you why it holds absolutely no merit, and it's just a means of propaganda to excite. 80% of the revenue earned from this project is going to a foreign company. It's not staying in the city. We are giving 80 cents of every dollar to a foreign unknown entity.
So the contract by
So the
itself is
contract
anti-development.
Is anti-development.
The contract by itself.
So it really gets under my skin, and it's really perverse to
And
me
that has to
that
be
I
looked-
have to pay a foreign company to park in my own city.
And that has to be looked at in context.
I don't understand
But some may
that.
argue against that and say, look, we don't have a company here that makes parking meters. If we're going to go down that route,
But there
then
are
it has to be a foreign
there are
company.
other avenues.
Do we know that for
There are
sure?
But
technologies that do not
exactly.
No,
Exactly.
I said that they can
And
argue again.
But the other
They
thing
can
is,
argue, but
the other thing is,
does it hold water?
when we're talking but on the development and anti-development, we have to think in terms of the 2017 budget for City Hall has an $807 million deficit. $807 million. So this ain't gonna bridge that by any means. It might help here and there. Think of the fact that if we make, according to some review estimates I'm seeing for 2017, under this parking meter system, $200 million, if we make that off of it, the company is getting $800 million.
That's right.
If 20% is 200 million, the company, tell me what is more anti-development than this contract?
Well, my
Giving
question was
away
based.
our money.
Yeah, my question was based on things that are percolating.
But
You
one of the
mentioned
things I wanted to
high
hit on-
class was one of the things,
Well,
and
that's-
you know.
that's- I would even respond to that.
But picking up from Kuppen's comment and what the town clerk had said, This is a representative of Smart City Solutions, Mr. Kush, who said last evening on social media, you are not progressives.
You
are
meaning the
freeloaders."
protesters?
Yes, the protesters.
MAPM.
Anybody against the parking meters. You lack the intestinal fortitude to control your own destiny. You possess the mentality of slaves, indentured servants, incapable of generating wealth and building capacity. This is a representative of Smart City Solutions talking to the city.
Denigrating the people of Georgetown.
That's how they
Denigrating
view
the
us.
people. That is how they view us.
That is how they view us. They
Right?
insultive.
This is a
Combative,
representative of
aggressive
Smart
against
City
it.
Solutions.
Work with us.
And I demand an apology from them for this kind of language.
Would you make that public?
Yes.
Good. Now, one of the questions came up from the last protest is, where is Smart City? We're just seeing the City Hall and the mayor being the one in the forefront, and they're only getting 20%. The company's getting 80%. So where is Smart City? Can
And if I
anybody
may,
answer that?
With the 80 to 20%, that is on revenue from the parking meters. It seems as though our council has also given permission for value-added services such as parking lots, etc. And the revenue that the council will get from that is 10% of the net, not gross, of the net of revenue from those
So if a loss is
value-added
declared,
from those value-added services. So how is this money going towards development when they're not gaining? We're basically paying a foreign
I
company
know
to
you cannot
park.
speak for Smart City, but why do you think that they're not in the forefront here?
Because they're smart.
I didn't see that one
They
coming.
see those numbers.
I didn't see that one coming. I expected that from Don.
I mean, they see our numbers. They're just going to stay mum. I mean, because it's ridiculous. But I mean, further to what Pauline is saying, Smart City Solutions has a monopoly on parking and transport in Georgetown as per contract. So if I had some empty land and said, boy, let me open a parking lot. No, I would have to get permission
from a
expressly
foreign
from a
company.
foreign company to develop my land in my country,
In
in
addition
my
to
town.
that, the land will be provided by the city, and they will not pay for the land. The fees they would have earned will work as a compensation for that land. That was what I read
So,
in the
hold
law.
on. Am I to believe now that any local businessman or woman wants to open a parking lot, a multi-story
Cannot.
parking lot, cannot do that within the next 40 years?
No.
You have to get permission.
It is stated in that same
From
Ministry
Smart
of
City.
Finance report
You
that,
have to get
that
permission.
looked at the actual contract, if that was a contract.
I mean,
it stated that they have a monopoly.
At some point, we
Monopoly
need to look at
arrangement.
who is Smart City Solutions. There's very little data available online. I mean, these guys just showed up and says, "Hey, we're smart. Take us here.
Which is,
Give us the money."
which is a contradiction in itself, because part of trying to woo councillors into the idea of supporting the contract is that this is an international consortium with years of experience, and Smart City Solutions started out as being this company. And somewhere along the line, as I said, the narrative keeps changing all the time. Smart City turned a special purpose company that was put in place specifically for this project. So then how do you have years of experience if you're a special purpose? And they can point to none of the managing directors or anybody who actually have years of experience in any other company rolling out parking meters any other place
All right,
in
so,
the world.
so just to re-clarify then, guys, you're not against
No.
parking meters.
No.
No, within the Municipal Act, the Municipal and District Councils Act, the council does have
Yes.
the authority to look at parking meters, subject to, of course, the Town and Planning Act and the Roads Act.
And the motor vehicle.
And the Motor Vehicles Act.
Subject
Because-
to.
Subject to.
Because there's a report that showed when there was a debate some time back, you did advocate that one of the
Yes.
ways to raise revenue
Yes.
would be through parking
Yes.
meters.
Yes, but it couldn't be by any means necessary, which I've also said. It has to be done legally. I mean, we can raise funds for the city in lots of ways. We can start pushing cocaine. We could do, a lot of things. You understand me? But one has to think logically. It has to be according to
I
to
hope
the
you're
law.
not misquoted from
But
this.
no, look, you say parking meters, but it's parking. It doesn't have to be meters.
Okay.
Can we ask the citizens perhaps in a different solution to buy in to say, hey, you buy for $1,000, you buy a parking sticker from the city council to park for that entire month, whatever arbitrary
which-
figure. And it would not create chaos, because what they could do in support of that is to create parking lots. So if you got to park 8 or 12 hours a day, you pay a separate fee. Zone, you have red
And-
zones, green
and-
zones,
and
yellow
John-
That
zones.
would be
In
all the
different
money
ways.
saved.
It
John
doesn't have
has
to
hit-
go run stick a card. in
John
the
has hit the
thing.
nail on the head, because when the president came to City Hall, as part of his presentation, he did say that. He said City Council should pursue parking lots. City Council should pursue parking lots. Look at that place on the West
Purika.
Bank at Purika, there's a overhead parking lot there that functions efficiently and has been doing so
$500 a day, I think.
for many years. $500 a day, and you pay when you come back for your vehicle.
And
Fully
security
secure
is provided.
facility.
Yeah.
Now, based on what you said in this
I did.
contract, that no parking lots per se or parking garages can be constructed without the permission. I don't want to believe from Smart City. Could have that been the reason why they went and destroyed the bridge, that the teleperformance lot that they were using to park cars for their workers?
Well, the official stance was that it was the disabled,
But they must
They
have
had
known that
permission
before.
for the ramp, I believe. Was that the?
Yeah,
the-
that's the
Yes.
ramp they
that
built
was-
for
Yeah,
cars to
but
go
they
in.
said
I
it
mean-
because
Only
of-
they can tell you why they dismantled
No,
it.
I'm trying to get a nexus here, because clearly that bridge or that ramp was broken a day or two or so just close to when paid parking commenced. That thing took a while to build. So it must have been known that this is causing the kind of obstruction
Well,
that they claim
this
it
is
was.
what we're
Control what
facing, ad
influence.
hoc administration. It's good today, it's bad tomorrow. When it suits their purpose, they arrive with henchmen. I mean, look at Giffland.
There's a central argument that is coming forward now, is that there have been reduction and so forth, and to the contract, the terms of the contract and the fees and so forth, and this amendment. But how can you approve an amendment for a contract that you have not yet seen? I mean, none of these things have been made public, and even when we received the amendment in the council, it wasn't a legal form. It was like a flyer form, a presentation. So we don't really know what is there, and I think the mayor is arguing that fees are reduced and the conditions have changed, but we don't know that for certain. And then there's a reversion principle where some of these conditions or these terms can revert back to what they were before.
Ms. Chase, is there anything that can be done legally to have this contract be made public?
Yes, there is.
Is that something that you're considering?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I don't want you to give too much away.
Law-
Contract
All
amendment.
options
But
are on
it
the
can.
table.
Yes, it can. We do have a Freedom of Information Act, and there are other coercive powers of the court which can be employed if the mayor does not cooperate or the council does not cooperate in releasing the contract. There's always recourse to the court.
Now, before we started the interview, you were telling me basically that it's actually illegal to to pay for parking, if I'm right.
As it is right now.
Why is that illegal?
Because the bylaws have not been gazetted, as simple as I can put it. Chapter 2801 provides for the mayor and city council to make bylaws. That's fine. But there's a certain process that must be followed, and the process and the procedure was not followed in this case. One, it has to be gazetted 14 days prior to being sent to the minister for approval. That's Section 305 of the said act. We do not know if that was done. Subsequently, once the minister approves it,
You did not know what was done?
if it was
illegal?
gazetted prior to
Okay.
the minister's approval. And that gazetting is very important because that is what puts the country on notice. That look, this is what we're proposing, this is what we're looking at. And it gives an objection period so that persons can have a look at it in the Gazette and register their objections or their agreement. And then that is what is sent to the minister. The bylaws and any objections that would have been received, the minister looks at it and then approves. He has the power to amend or approve in full. Now, once he approves and he signs off on the bylaws, which our respectful minister did do on the 23rd of January, the Interpretation and General Clauses Act, Section 21, states that those bylaws, once approved by the minister, must be then gazetted. And the section further goes on to state that the laws shall take effect from the date of advertisement in the Gazette. So right now, the laws are not enforceable. And the section even further goes on to say that the bylaws can be made retrospective, but anything done in the interim, the person shall not be held liable. So no penalties and no liability accrues to the person for any act done while the bylaws were not advertised.
Are you telling us here and telling viewers now that while people are paying for parking, that they actually can have an option of not doing so because it's not legal?
It's not legal.
But how do they deal now with the clamping of their vehicles and towing it and all of that? How can they deal with that? Are you guys, you have a pool of lawyers or someone that can provide help to people? if they want
Lawyers
to
are
do that?
always, I mean, lawyers are always available. There are many of us in the country,
Okay.
you know. They're always available, and I'm sure the lawyers will be of assistance in this regard. These things get lawyers
Well,
excited and happy, you know.
You see what's happening. They're heavy-handed. They're bullies. They come. Regular citizens get clamped, and they have to pay VAT on this fine for clamping, which is very strange because VAT is a service. But then
16% too.
16%, not even 14%, and nobody seems to hold them accountable. And the small person with the car clamping, you know, he's not gonna call a line on the spot. Hey, I got a clamp. You know, let's sort this out. I'm going to go to police. He's just like, oh, I just want to go home, get rid of this nightmare. So that's why they can get away with it.
No, but this is something that we should not just push under the table.
Oh, not at all.
You're saying that it's actually illegal that they're charging this parking fee. That's what you were saying.
Yes, the
Until
laws
such
are not
time that you believe
enforceable.
all the paperwork would have been
Until
completed.
the date of the advertisement in the Gazette, then the laws become enforceable. It is not enforceable until advertised in the Gazette.
Now, for the two councillors here, does the City Hall have lawyers, and those lawyers will not be? I'm sure that those lawyers must have some way of understanding what the honourable attorney here is saying. They must have known that too, I presume.
Well, I would think so. I would think so, and it was my understanding that the bylaws would follow all the normal procedures. And so the fact that we have not done that, the minister have already signed off on it, they have not been advertised and so on. I'm speechless. So, but it's just one of the other things that have been so strange about this council.
And the bylaws of themselves are atrocious in the content. Forget the procedure, the content of the bylaws. As I said earlier, there are different ways to attack the legality of this thing. One was the contract, and the second was the bylaws. I understand a statement has been attributed to our Honorable Attorney General that he had looked at the bylaws and he approved it, and except I think for the fees. Well, with all due respect, we would respectfully disagree with the Honorable Attorney General. There are quite a few illegalities in the bylaws. One of the most alarming is, as Councillor Duncan alerted to earlier, is that the city nor the company holds any responsibility to a person for damage, whether criminal or civil, occasioned in the execution of the bylaws. Now that is wholly unconstitutional. You cannot take away someone's constitutional and fundamental common law right to redress to the court in subsidiary legislation. Everyone has the right to approach the court for any wrong done to them.
So if they clamp your vehicle and they stow it,
And they break the mirror, they scratch it. Somebody
They
They
steals
can
something.
assault you. They can assault you. And you cannot take any, as far as they're concerned, cannot take any private criminal proceedings against
I mean,
you.
as a layman here, I'm surprised that these things are there, and only a program like
This
these
is
or
the kind
program
of
like
city
these,
that
they're coming
it's the kind
out.
of place that we live. Because look, even in some areas where these park meters are to be installed, they've done the base on the pave that got huge nuts and bolts sticking out of them. I mean, that can injure people. I've heard that people have fallen over them and all kinds of stuff. And even that, the kind of safety issues, you know, with even little things like that, seem not to have bothered anybody.
It seems there's a general attitude on their part, and I don't know if this is something that is they have inherited, having been in the council for so long, and there is an institutionalized mentality or mode of operation that guides them into taking action unilaterally and not looking at the laws. In this case, some of those blatant terms within the bylaws should have raised red flags for the attorneys who were preparing that. I'm sure they had people within their advisors who should have told them that you simply cannot have bylaws where you're removing yourself from culpability for violations of the law, because the Constitution will protect people who you assault.
But that's
Dawn
why,
and Ms. Chase,
if I may,
sorry.
that's why the advertisement of the bylaws in the Gazette was so important. We would have had that period for objection,
Okay.
but we did not have it.
Did you ever thought of, and this is just for the movement against parking meters, Dawn, Ms. Chase, of trying to meet with the Attorney General and see whether the legal, all these things that you're talking about can be discussed at a higher level?
No, I don't think we've
We've not gone that route
Not
yet.
gone.
As you just alluded to, you are a layman, and I am a layman as well. And MAPM was formed just by citizens. We just talking on WhatsApp like, oh my God, do you believe this? Can you believe this? Can you believe this? And then it just evolves. So, we decided, enough. Let's just do something. Let's try something.
Are you optimistic given the success that the teachers would have had in their protest?
Oh yes, we were optimistic. You mean in having our demands met? Absolutely.
Yeah,
2,500 protesters yesterday are behind us.
We've already seen the overtures by government in terms of bringing down the cost of it, but I think what should be had is a suspension of this contract, and it to be looked at not only top to bottom, but also scrap it.
But are we getting mixed messages? Because first of all, the PPP very early said it should be scrapped. Then the AFC came out sometime after and said it should be suspended. Now the president is saying that there should be reduction in the fees. Are we getting mixed messages from within the coalition party itself that also is part of the city council? In terms of suspension, in terms of...
Well, I think the party of itself, represented through central government, is now saying it should be scrapped. But I represent the AFC on the council, and I've been against this contract from the word go.
But I don't
No, I understand that. I'm not questioning you. While one party is saying scrap or calling for a suspension, we are now hearing, no, let's reduce the fees.
No, but I don't think there's any conflict because the government in itself, through the Ministry of Finance review, their position is that it should be rescinded. So in fact, we're not, and I think this point should be made very clearly, that the movement is not anti-government. It's apolitical. I don't think anybody could accuse the four of us here of having the same political views or the same religion. So, and we are not anti-government. We in fact agree with the government. The government in their Ministry of Finance review said that the contract should be rescinded, and we agree with that. So the government has said so, the AFC has said so, the PPP has said so, and the movement has said so.
So the question
we're
is,
all in agreement.
so the question would be now is when?
When?
Why is it taking so long
Just
for this to happen?
One of the major consequences of this parking meter contract and what we've seen that is happening is fear. It is driving fear. We have the fear of crime already, but it's driving fear into individuals, small people, as to what they're going to do with their vehicles, whether their job's going to be there tomorrow because business is contracting, business wanting to know whether they're going to have to close down, because we have noted major business people have said they had to reduce the hours of staff. The next thing that will occur with these additional fees, because it's driving away business. You walk through Robb Street and all those areas. I have a business in Robb Street, a small business, and sales have reduced dramatically. So there's this fear there that this parking meter all by itself is causing the system, which is not good for the country. This entire system should be scrapped. This is not the time for parking meters based on the state of the economy right now. And my position is it has to be scrapped. No matter what reduction they want to...
Lower fees will not solve the problem because we are still sending a majority, whatever the lower fee is, we're still sending a majority out.
I mean, respectfully, wouldn't that be a contradiction of what you're saying? Because you're saying you're not against parking meters. So I understand of all the transparency contract and all of that. But no, isn't that shifting the goalpost? That is not, we don't want it at this time? I mean,
no, I don't think you're shifting the goalpost. First of all, we should not run away from the point, the genesis of this contract and the way it came about.
No, I understand all of that.
Right.
I mean, in the principle, and that's why I asked the question, what are you against? Are you against the whole, the way this was done, or are you against parking meters? And the answer I got is that you're not against parking meters per se, but the way it was done. So if there's going to be parking meters, it has to come at a cost. You have to pay a cost to park.
Yeah.
Are you against that?
No.
No, I'm not against that. The methodologies and the technology, what they're bringing here requires all this infrastructure. And the parking meter of the future have moved beyond what it is now, where you don't have to put these meters down on the ground. There's cell phone technology with spaces that are marked off, and you just simply dial in your number and so forth. There are other things with a beeper-like thing that you put on your windscreen. So we don't need this major infrastructure.
But it still comes at a cost.
No,
Yes.
but it will come to a
reduced
reduced cost, which consumers and citizens can afford and they can subscribe to. If this contract was brought beforehand to the council and it was discussed in an open way, we could have found solution to this issue, because it's there. We cannot say we're against parking meters when in fact the law states that the council do have an option to bring them in.
Might I just read a little bit here?
Yeah.
That this is from, again, the review by the Ministry of Finance of the parking meter contract. It says, implications for the nation. And I made a note here, impact on business. It is doubtful that the multiplier effect which the metered parking system should induce will occur, given the apparently exploitive nature of the deal. In fact, it may have an indirect benefit impact where business growth declines, resulting from changes in 1. Sales, trade and services at the retail, wholesale and producer levels. 2. Shifts in spending because of the workers and payrolls that are effective directly and indirectly in Georgetown and its environs, and dynamic economic effect as a consequence of broader shifts over time in population and business location patterns, land use, and land value.
All right. I don't want to dwell on it too long, but just for clarity, right? Don, I think you said earlier you're not against parking meters. So I'm saying if all the things that you're calling for are put in place, right? So we start fresh. Parking meters there, we have to pay a cost, right?
Yes.
That cost
Yes.
will be worked out. I mean,
Yes.
you're not against that.
No.
But
No,
you
at
were
a
saying
cost
no.
to the city. The money stays here.
Everything,
And we
everything.
like
Yeah,
everything
cost
to
the
stay
city
with
Everything,
us.
stays
everything,
here. No,
everything.
we're not sending money to
Good,
to
good.
a
So
foreign company.
if
no.
all that is met, if all that is met, you're saying no. If the parking meters are, if that is met, you don't think it's wrong to have parking meters and we pay a fee. But you are saying no, that the time is not right for that. Am I right?
I'm saying that the state of the economy right now is not conducive to putting parking meters on the road. It's an additional burden. You have to realize that since the new government came into office, we have over 200 taxes, new or increased taxes. This is an additional burden that we cannot afford right now. At this point in time, maybe it's something to be considered in the future. And it seems like we have tunnel vision here that this parking meter is the only way to raise revenue for the city.
Okay.
There are other options, and that's where we need the involvement of all the citizens. We need to bring in back, because the commercial enterprises in the city is the economic engine of the city, and they're being pushed aside. They should be brought in as partners
But I think
to
the
find
key
ways
there,
to generate
the
income.
key there would be to get the council to listen to the suggestions that you're talking
Well,
about.
that is one of the problems.
All right, let's in a few minutes we have. I want to expand a little bit on the impact in business, because if business are going to contract, it means that eventually, and if unfortunately they'll have to close, there'll be loss of job and then eventually loss of revenue to the said city. How do you see that?
Oh, well, we MAPM, supporters, members, whatever, we walked around central Georgetown, up and down, and it is tragic. Every business owner says sales are down 50, 60, 70%. They says this continue 1 more week, 2 weeks, we'll have to start laying people off because we just can't. Overheads are too much and there's no revenue. Because for some strange reason, whilst people are supporting our boycotts to not pay the parking meters, stay out of the zone, starve the green monsters, whatever, foot traffic has also dried up as a consequence. Everything is like a domino effect. And people are deciding to go shop out of the zone, out of town, go to the malls, go to the countryside areas. They're just not coming into town because they feel pressure.
Well, one of the flights that you have going around, you have a red zone and a green zone, if I'm right, right?
Yellow,
red and
yellow,
yellow.
The
and
red and yellow, sorry. Maybe the
That is phase two.
Good. So
The red is phase two.
eventually there'll be when the red zone, I think, is expanded, people will not. There'll be no safe area to park.
Georgetown will die. Georgetown will perish. Because, as part of the bylaws again, you have to park in a metered area. You have to park in a metered area. It's not like you can see a side street and say, boy, let me go in, and avoid a parking meter. No, you are now illegal because you have not approached the parking meter. And secondly, residents. If you've seen the red zone, Georgetown residents abound in these, and they have to park in front. There are many back houses and stuff. People have to pay to park in front of their own gap. It's crazy. No consultation was done.
And this is something that will probably come to your desk, or probably is already there. Is it?
Yeah, I'm a resident in the current yellow zone, and I'm confined to my yard. I can't park in front of
This is one of the
my
issues I
yard.
raised when we were talking about it. I said there are many citizens within Georgetown, especially in the commercial area, that have lived there their entire lives and they've parked in front. They have no driveway they can ride into. What concessions are going to be made? And that was simply brushed aside. Now later on, after the pressure started building, I noticed a very small ad in the Stabrook News where citizens are encouraged to go in to apply for a discount. I don't know what that discount is. But this whole thing was not thought out fully before, and that's where public consultations should have been the first thing that they should have done.
But legally,
And the feasibility
and the
study,
study,
impact
and the
study.
Chase, legally, would that not be something against a resident's constitutional right that now they have to pay to park their own vehicles?
All of those
where they
things
live
can be challenged in the court. all of those things can be challenged. The court is always there and
Now,
can always be challenged.
for the two councillors here, I don't know if this is a long shot. I mean, maybe it may not be, but is it possible in any way that you may be able to get more consensus or more councillors? You mentioned, and I admire you clarifying that you're here not necessarily as a party representative, but a council representative. Is there something that you two can do to be able to build more support, to get the council to actually listen and to be able to say, hey, we want to, all the things that you have said here, but we can start from within the council. Is it possible to get more support, cutting across the party lines?
I think we can do that, yes, one. And two, we need a more...
But can it happen?
We need a more robust citizenry because people and residents, you must be calling on your council to ask them, where are you voting on this matter? Where do you stand on this matter? Local government elections is next year, December. You understand me? And so you should be able to go back to your constituency and give an account for what you did in the council and the things you voted on in the council. And people should be able to call residents in any of the constituencies that make up Georgetown and ask the councillors, where do you stand on this issue?
I'm glad you mentioned that. And you mentioned you're from District 7, if I heard you right, and whatever. Could you not use that as a reason to have each councillor talk to their district and say, hey, we need to do exactly what you just said and try to build that consensus? I know sometimes these are things that are difficult to achieve, but are you optimistic that you can get the kind of bipartisan support that you need across the political aisle to get the mayor and the town clerk to say, hey, hold on.
But
we
I
need to
think,
go
I
to-
think that
It goes back to what he's saying.
I think that is happening in a sense because
No, but it's one or two people.
we started Friday with Her Worship the Mayor saying that it was a PPP sponsored protest. By Wednesday evening, and they were moving ahead with the parking meter project.
First we were high class, then
Yes.
we were
High class,
PPP.
Yes, by Wednesday we had a statement saying that she would have heard the cries of the PPP, sorry, the citizenry, right? And they were really willing to revise the parking meter fees. So they were immovable for the longest while, and suddenly we're seeing. So I believe that councillors are looking, they're reading the newspapers, they're seeing what's happening on television. I saw some of them at the protest, even though within the compound of the city council, and they must be rethinking, did I make the right choice? Did I read all
But
I
is
needed
this
to?
protest, clearly this protest will have an impact.
Yes,
Well done.
yes,
It may-
yes.
And I think they can now use this as some way to say, hey, I have a constituent that I have to answer to.
Well, we
They should-
we
Because I
certainly
saw,
hope so.
I saw you
That's
shook
the
your
whole
head
idea.
when I saw you shook your head when I was asking Sherod whether we can actually have this bipartisan
Well,
approach.
I mean, look, when Sherod was running for mayor, he had to withdraw an hour before. Why? Because a directive came from somewhere. You know, you will not be voted in.
Well, actually, no directive came to me.
Well, not to you, but to
I
your
don't
fellow
know.
councillors that they, as it says,
And
the
that
ma-
is where you
the mayor
cannot
was voted in
separate the party
37
line
seconds.
from the individual
But
sometimes.
there are two other areas. The one he mentioned, which is the citizenry, within the constituency that the councillors come from, they have to take a more active role. And I think the press has an important role to play here, because a lot of time the news is more on the sensational side, but they should question those councillors in their vote and what they're doing for if this is beneficial to the people
I don't
within
think
their
it would be, I
constituency.
mean, I can't speak for all of the press, but I don't think it will be a lack of not trying. It's that whether people really want to respond. But what I want to put to you, are you willing, the two of you, to start with you, go to your constituent, knock on the doors, and to say, hey, we need you now to work the phone lines and share your concerns. Are you willing to do that?
Well, I have been doing that, and that is why I started very, very early
Kuppen?
Yes,
talking about this matter.
I've been going outside of my constituency because in many of those constituencies, they don't even know who their councillors are.
Are you willing to get your other councillors now to come on board quietly to do
Quietly.
the same thing and see how this can out? Because you have something that you can
try.
fall
We can
back
try.
on.
We can
And
try.
this is a protest, which is growing.
But not only that. Yes, you are voted in by a constituency, but again, 2021 says you're not only
No, I
representing
hear
their
you on
interests,
that,
but all
but
of
based on what
Georgetown.
you mentioned, that you need more robust citizenry to call and make logical complaint. Some people may need a little bit of pushing, you know. They may need some encouragement to get that done. And I'm saying, who better to do it than the person that is coming from their constituent? We have to close. We have to close. And I'm told, and I could be wrong here, Don, that some 37%, when there's a comparison of paying for parking with some other countries based on what is the salary or the average salary, that Guyana is 37%. Is that a
Yes.
Is that a true figure?
That's an absolute true figure. It's absolute research true figure. I mean, we went and did samples from all over the world because, you know, That's how they do it. And when we got to this figure, we were shocked. We then rechecked it. And it's absolutely true, 37%.
And that's why it's so important with regard to the argument of development, etc. We need to look and see if there's any other country in the world with our GDP that pays parking meters and pays parking meters at this fee. That's very important
Of which
to the argument.
80% of the 37% goes overseas.
It's going overseas.
All
So
right.
you can't say that
In closing, what do you think is the way forward? I'm going to start with the old cliche, ladies first.
Oh, well, thank you. As I said, there's only one way, and that's a rescission of the contract. I think everybody's in
And
agreement.
you're not going to budge from that.
No, we can't budge from that. How can we? Because any deviation from that does not answer the problem, and that is 80% of our money is going to a company. It's not even staying in the city. So not until we have to rescind the contract and start again, and it's possible. It's not impossible.
All right, Councillor.
My position is that the contract should be rescinded. This contract is not a private arrangement. This is a contract that is representative of the people, or should be representative of the people of the city. It is not in their best interest, and as to the points alluded to, most of it will be going to a foreign company. I think the way forward is for it to be scrapped.
Sherwood?
Scrap the contract.
Don?
Yes, absolutely scrap the contract. And you know, if they don't want to scrap the contract, we will continue with our campaign of not putting money in the meters. So at some point, you'll probably scrap it yourself.
On the next program, we'll probably ask what happens when the red zone takes over the yellow zone.
Hopefully it
On
doesn't get
note,
that far.
ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you very much. Don Singh from the Movement Against Parking Meters, Sherwood Duncan, Deputy Mayor of the Main City Council, Ms. Pauline Chase, Attorney at Law, and Bishram Kuppen, Councillor on the LNCC. I'm Neaz Subhan. You're watching The Factor. Bye-bye.